and welcome to Tiny Changes Big Podcast. I'm your host, B. Charlotte. This podcast is all about bringing you real talk and insights from the music industry, with conversations from those who actively live it. We will cover less discussed topics like finance, identity, public perception, and how attempting to survive this unregulated industry impacts our mental health. Together, we'll explore the rhythms of mental health, the highs, the lows, and the steady heartbeat in between, because your well-being is the foundation of your creativity. So come on in, everyone's welcome.
Before we jump in, a note on our content. This podcast will discuss and explore some difficult subject areas. We want to make sure you're aware of what's coming ahead, so you can decide if you're in a good place to listen and make a healthy decision on how and if you want to consume this podcast content. This episode includes discussions of online abuse and trolling, misogyny and gender-based harassment, which briefly mentions death threats, rape threats, and image-based sexual abuse. The descriptions of these are limited but can be vivid. This episode also covers stalking, safety concerns, intense social media pressure and burnout, and the mental health impact of being constantly visible online, including anxiety and disassociation. There's also some strong language at times. We want to encourage you to think about how you look after yourself during and after the episode, and listener discretion is advised. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the guests and the host and are intended for informational purposes only. They do not constitute professional mental health, legal, or financial advice. So now you know what's ahead. We hope you join us and enjoy this episode.
Today we're talking about what it's actually like to put yourself out there as a musician in 2025. Music can be the best outlet for expressing yourself, and sharing that can be an amazing way to create a community, with social media obviously opening up the door to potentially connecting with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people in every single post. But being publicly creative in the age of social media can also mean that you're never really off. The comments don't stop, the scrutiny doesn't stop, and that can take a real toll. So today we're going to cover all these bases with our two wonderful guests, Lauren Mayberry, singer-songwriter and frontperson from CHVRCHES, and Kirsteen Harvey, singer-songwriter and content creator. Firstly, thank you both so much. Welcome to the Tiny Changes Big Podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us. And you pointed out that we're both wearing stripes. We have not met. We've not talked about this. So it was just indie girl sensibilities coming through.
We're going to be getting into being in the public eye and all that comes with that, really. And in this day and age, a big part of that is obviously being on social media. But we wanted to start with, I guess, a little bit of the positive pull of it and why we share. So it'd be great to sort of, start with why we even do this, because there is obviously good moments, there's obviously good things that come from it, and for ourselves it can feel good to be sharing publicly, whether that be online or just releasing our music and all that comes with that. Sometimes it would be easier to never share anything at all, but we do it, we keep going, so there is that positive pull that brings us to do that. So I guess starting off, in a way, what draws you to sharing yourself or sharing your music publicly? I know for you, Lauren, you've obviously been in this industry for a long time and experienced it from a lot of different angles. But what is, I guess, at the start to now, what is the thing that keeps you, that positive pull that keeps you going, keeps you wanting to share online and just sharing music in general?
I think for me, when I first started I didn't really start making music first. I would just write words, like very cool tween writing little sad poems to myself in a notebook. And then later, when other kids in high school started being in bands, I was like, wait, that's a thing that you can do. I didn't know that we could do that. I didn't know that was an option. And then I think for me, it became part of wanting to have a sense of community or a sense of belonging. And I don't know, I always loved being in bands because it kind of felt like you're kind of the Goonies or you're the Lost Boys or something. It feels nice to have that. There's people that have to hang out with you all the time. And I think from there, I'm never more contented than when I'm writing, I think. As much as I complain about it, because, it goes in the waves, it goes in waves. Sometimes it comes really quickly, sometimes it really doesn't. But I really enjoy that, like, purpose, and like you're trying to figure out something about yourself and you're trying to complete the puzzle of a song. And I think that for me is, I never really get over that feeling. Like when you get one that you're really pleased with, that to me is like peak, and everything else that happens around everything that we do, I'm like, oh, that stuff, I don't think about any of that when we're in the process, in the creative flow.
No, totally. And I guess like what you're saying, it's sometimes it's and there can be a lot of time, can't there, of course, from when you write the song to then when it finally eventually release it, and all that comes with that, and then doing the content or the social media, I guess, around that song. It can be, you've got to then go back into that place of where you've written that song from to then be, I guess, willing to share that. But I guess as well for you, Kirsteen, what sort of draws you to sharing your music?
Yeah, just like sharing music if someone or anyone comes at you after you've released something or shared something and says that they found a way to relate to that, or it helped them through something, or they just really loved it, I think that is a feeling for me that just makes you want to share more. And like, obviously I assume we're all music consumers, but like music's meant to be shared, and I love listening to everyone else's, so being able to put my music out and hope that someone or anyone likes it or uses it for something is like what I suppose makes me want to share more. Just being able to kind of build that community, as you said, just kind of grow that wee base of people that listen to your tunes. And I love being able to give that or do that, and or something that you write in your room that you think is only about you, and then you post it somewhere, and other people are like, oh my gosh, yes, that's totally how I feel. I think that's just the really magic part about sharing the music.
I sometimes feel like for me, writing is almost a way of regulating my own emotions. Like, not even if I'm writing an intensely emotional song, but sometimes I think just having the act of getting up and doing it, or having a piece of music that a bandmate has sent you, and then you have to think, just, it takes me out of my own head sometimes in a good way. And I think when you are writing things that are more personal and more emotional, sometimes I don't even know that that's what's happening at the time necessarily. Sometimes I do, and then sometimes after the fact I'm like, oh, I think I just needed to, it was like release the radiator valve and get something out, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, you're like, that's totally what that's about. And I think that's quite cool that your subconscious brain can trick you in that way sometimes. So and then if a song makes somebody else feel happy or feel moved or feel seen or any of those things, that, as you say, is such a insane thing to experience, because that's what we feel about other people's music. And in the moment, not that CHVRCHES writes that many happy songs, but when we do, like, in that moment, it made us feel as excited in the studio when we were getting when you catch the thing, you're like, oh, get it quickly, spacebar. And then if we're like bouncing around in the studio and then you see people doing that at a live show, or if you've written something that was quite upsetting for you to write, and then other people connect with that, I do think it makes me feel less odd as a person. I'm like, oh, right. Like, I think sometimes you think you're the oddest, loneliest, strangest person that you know, and then you go and play that song at a show and you're like, oh, we're all just as odd. So, or that means that we're all normal and people don't talk about their oddness enough or something. I don't know.
Exactly. No, I think the latter, Lauren, that makes that makes sense. But like what we're talking about, I guess the thing that keeps us going, and it does always come back to the drive or the reason why, I guess, you started writing songs or making music. And like what you say, it can be, sometimes it can be something really that to other people might feel small, but it could be, like you say, Kirsteen, one person's comment that says something about that really resonates with me, or that helped me through a really difficult time. It puts it all back into perspective and goes, yeah, that's exactly why we do what we do. And like what you say, it is really mad to think that people can feel that of the music that we make in terms of feeling that of other people's music as well, like what you're saying. I think, yeah, that's a big part of why we do, I guess, what we do and continue to do what we do is the main, coming back to the love of it and the cause of it. But also, obviously, in this, and social media has obviously been around for a long time now, so it's nothing new, but it's obviously constantly evolving and changing, and the nature of it is, it feels like it's constantly evolving and changing. And the difference, I guess, for this, our generation of musicians, is that we are always online pretty much most of the time. Even if we're not physically always online, our music or our content is there representing us in that way. You can't just, I guess, finish a gig anymore and go home and switch off. You've got constant feedback in your pocket 24/7 all the time, and it can be quite an adjustment going from what you've known before regularly? No, what's the word I'm thinking of? Relatively normal day-to-day life, to then jumping into that. And I know, Kirsteen, you've experienced a really rapid shift of you're now, over 100,000 followers on TikTok in, what we're saying, less than 2 years, which is wild. So it's crazy and just incredibly impressive. And I just have to note as well and say that is your things on social media can happen, like we never can predict, but your consistency and your dedication to that is what's got there as well, though. Your commitment to that. I just have to add that in because it's so important. But yeah, going from that, in a sense, you're not starting at zero, of course not, but 0 to 100 in terms of public visibility, what has that been like, that sudden jump, in a sense, to a lot of eyes on you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's weird because obviously before did I kind of jump like that, the social media always on thing was still there, because if you, as you said, like you do a gig and it was like, right, you need to post about it immediately after or share the stories and things. But having the jump, the thing that I felt different with having this kind of jump of numbers and knowing that there's more people there makes it a lot more like the feeling's a lot stronger of thinking that there's an audience always watching. So every post is like, okay, there's people there that are likely to see this, or I feel like I have more sense of pressure in terms of there's actually people following now, so I need to keep this, like keep what they followed for a reason in terms of being consistent and posting quite regularly and maintaining a certain quality and quantity, that if that's what they followed for, then I should maintain that because that's why they followed. So for doing gigs and if something's coming up, then I'm aware of, right, I need to do X, Y, Z, like I need to post this amount of stuff, I need to share this, and you're aware that there's a lot more people there, and I suppose it makes it harder to switch off because in my head I'm like, if they were all in the room with me right now, I couldn't just ignore them. I'd have to like be sharing this stuff. Like 100,000 people in my living room would not work.
There'll be a lot of people in there. It's too many.
Yeah, you feel like this sense of, right, I need to provide some like whether it's singing songs online or just updates and things, and it is a lot harder to switch off because I feel like I do feel some sense of guilt sometimes if I take like a break. And it's funny how even if you have like a week of nothing, you come back and you're like, sorry for being quiet, and it's been 1 week of like no post, but it's like you feel like a sense of apologetic because these people they're following, which is amazing. It's actually madness to me, and I'm obviously so grateful for it. I can't really believe it, to be quite honest. I think it's all quite funny, social media, but yeah, it's you don't really switch off, but you do need to find that kind of separation of, because I just do it as a solo person. It's like I just use my name, Kirsteen, so it's trying to split Kirsteen and Kirsteen online and kind of keeping it as still two separate things, but also, you're just like, people are following you. They know who you are. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
No, totally. And I get what you're saying, that the pressure with it as well, because when something does start to feel like it's building lots of momentum and there's lots of people coming in, or there's getting lots of traction, you obviously want to continue to build on it, but then you also have to be mindful of your own mental well-being and your own capacity and how that feels for you. But then at the same time, as well as we're going to get on to a lot of the difficulties of putting ourselves online and posting on social media, what you've achieved is incredible, and you should be able to celebrate those successes as they're happening right there and then, and videos blowing up and getting hundreds of thousands of views or more. Like, that should be, do you feel like, as much as it was a really rapid rise, do you feel like you were still able to celebrate those moments along the way?
I think so. Like, well, it was definitely a mixture, because it was so exciting. Like, I think when it first started, I think it was one video in particular, like, blew up overnight. It was quite funny because I've obviously been posting my own music and things for a year or two before that, and my dad's like a Scottish dad musician, and he was like, I bet you if you put a cover up of one of the songs that I sing in the pub, it'll do way better than all of your stuff. And I was like, oh, sure, it will. And so I did a cover of did a cover of the Geely Peace song, which is totally not the similar vibe to my original stuff, and then it was instantly overnight, it was like, oh my goodness. But then you're trying to, that's amazing, and I was like, this could, right, hopefully this will translate into my music and writing, but also maintaining, like, people have followed for that song. So then it's like, right, do this cover, do this song. So you're doing these things because it was fun. Like, it is fun. Like, I love doing it because it's a good wee laugh, and it's really nice seeing people's reactions to songs like that and things. But then also filtering in, your original stuff and trying to maintain yourself as, like, singer songwriter, like, as a new artist, without losing that to, like, doing these wee covery songs. Which, so I've been really conscious of creating a blend of it, rather than focusing solely on, all right, that's getting the views, so keep doing that, trying to balance it. So
I think, it's always so easy to the negative sides of social media, but when there is those good moments, it's also good to celebrate them, I guess, when they happen, and the things that come from that, the things that have led on from those experiences online is great, but that also doesn't take away from the negativity and the difficultness of it. Also made me think about, it can be faceless, nameless people on the internet, but it also can be, the sad reality of it is it can be real people that you know, and that's one of the worst bits of it. It can be somebody you've worked with, went to school with, that lives near you. It can be anything. And we've spoken a bit about that in the past, Kirsteen, about that reality of, it's not just nameless, faceless people on the internet. It could be people that you know that are giving you these types of comments. How on earth do you find that courage to pick yourself back up and keep going? Like what you say, keep posting the videos and keep sharing yourself.
Yeah, I don't know, it's tricky, because it's just like, well, I didn't expect, like, a lot of, as you were saying, like, kind of, you get a lot of, like, well, you're doing the music and you're putting yourself online, so get yourself a thicker skin. That's part of it, as if that just comes hand in hand with the job, which is not really why you sign up for this. But it's like, I would always find that if you click on some, when I was going through a rabbit hole where I would really deep all the comments that were negative, you'd, like, click on some profiles and you'd find out it was, like, I don't know, someone from Glasgow, like 16-year-old girl, or like they have a profile and you can see, like, everything about them and all that stuff, and you'd be like, my goodness, they're sat doing, like, typing this up. And for a while I would definitely, I would see myself as the issue and really deep it, and it really put me off doing a lot of stuff, and it could have put me off for long term, to be honest. But I think having, like, the support system around me and being able to almost see through and try flip it. I would just flip it, and then it took me a while, but I would flip it to then be thinking about them, being like, well, I've sat and wrote a song all night, and they've sat dishing out horrible comments to people, so I don't know who's having a more productive night. But just trying to see it as, like, almost feel sorry for them. It was kind of, I've kind of just started, like, flipping it and being like, well, I think it says a lot more about them than it does, but it's so hard to see through that, especially when it comes close to home, because it's different if it's, like, anonymous 36125 something, or it's, like, a name with a picture and a whole profile and maybe a mutual friend or something, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, that's quite close to home, so then it feels more real. And then you think about it a lot more. So I don't know. I'm definitely a lot better with it now, but there'll still be some times where you have a bit of a wobble. I don't think it'll ever be a smooth sailing process, because you can get a thicker skin, and, like, I definitely would say come out of a lot of stuff feeling a lot more confident and less caring about it. But it's not a smooth sailing journey, so there's still going to be a lot of worrying about who's watching, who's commenting on it.
No, exactly. And I think as well, a lot of people think, don't they, when you put yourself out there, whether it's releasing music and putting out photos, videos, all that stuff, that we are super confident, nothing can faze us, human beings, that we're indestructible, we're not. And it's this weird thing as well, you see a lot of times, not just in the music industry, and the whole of, I guess, creative industries or entertainment industry, when people comment things that they think the person will never see or hear. And that always baffles me, because it's like, or won't affect them, because it's like, well, of course, everyone is human. You'd have to be absolutely superhuman to not be affected by those types of things. And obviously, Lauren, there's an article in the NME that I think you'd went on, I think it was Radio 4 or Radio 6, and it was a segment about cyber misogyny. There was yourself, self-esteem, that type of thing. They'd put a wee segment together. Maybe they'd clipped something up from something you'd said before. This time you're having to talk about the development of that and how technology's advanced and how that's made that even more difficult. And I recognise that this is a very heavy and invasive question and topic, but we've lived with this now, as I'm saying, for over a decade. And you've been so brave in speaking openly about receiving death threats, rape threats, being turned into deepfake porn, having to hire security for your home. Like, you've lived with this for such a long time. If you wouldn't mind talking about, I guess, what that's actually been like, but also most importantly, how you've kept going.
Well, I think it's interesting what Kirsteen was saying about a sort of tolerance that you build up almost, or you get used to things that you didn't. One at one point would have been kind of horrifying for you to know that you're used to them. But sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm like a little lobster in a pot. Like, the stuff that upset me right at the start of the band was definitely not as bad as the things that came in the years that followed it. And I do kind of wonder, I'm like, I do think I stuck a target on my back by talking about it once when it was just general sleaziness, because then that made us associated with certain things that do make a lot of people online quite irritated. And then I kind of wonder, I'm like, I think I sort of made it worse in the long run by talking about it early on. But then I think I don't really know what the alternative. I don't even though it wasn't a conscious decision. It wasn't a can't speak. It wasn't a conscious decision to plan this out as a path. It just kind of happened. But yeah, I think if you'd told me in 2012 or something that, you will pay a security firm to make sure your address is never on the internet, and I wouldn't even have known what deepfake porn was in 2012. I was quite shocked to learn what it was at the time, to be honest. But yeah, and that was an awkward email to send to my very nice male manager. I was like, don't click the link, but also do click the link because I need you to click the link. But apparently this is on the internet. But and I don't know. I think it's interesting because I'm kind of comfortable with the fact that a lot of that happens now because I've made myself into a certain kind of figure. My avatar, my cartoon persona self is the kind of person that's really not going to be liked by a certain demographic of men. And if that's the way the cookie crumbles, then what are you going to do? Like, I don't think that stuff, I feel like we're talking a lot more about those things in culture at the minute, and we're seeing a lot more of the fallout of those things in a lot of other areas outside of just me on the internet. So I kind of feel like the public conversation about that has changed a little in the last few years. But I think it is interesting, like you say, Kirsteen, that some of the most disturbing and like vicious misogynist comments when you click through is a female on the other side of it. And I'm like, oh, what? And it's, I guess, yeah, the way that I kind of came to terms with some of that is similar to what you were saying, that I used to just be so shocked and in the hurt of it. And now I'm kind of like, well, what's that person's life like if you're sitting there and sitting on your phone at night saying this? I'm like, I represent something to you that really upsets you in some way. And that's not, it's kind of to do with me, but it's more to do with you. And I was like, if you are, this person married to this person with these 2 kids doing this, I'm like, go do that. Go be happy in your that. And I'm like, but I think we're all, as you say, we're all just people. And, happy, contented people don't act like that. And a lot, I'm very lucky in my life that I've had an amazing career. I've been really, really fortunate to have that and have lovely people around me. But life is really fucking hard. for a lot of people. So I'm not saying that every time somebody says something awful about me, I'm like, oh, what is your struggle? But sometimes I think it makes it more harrowing in one way to think that a real person with an interior life and a whole network around them and like a whole fabric of their life would go out of their way to say something like that. But then on the other hand, it makes it, I don't know, for me it's easier to handle if I do humanize it. I'm like, all right, this guy that sat at home, because I was big on 4chan for a while, that was fun. But like I was like, this person that sat at home and photoshopped jizz on like every gig picture they could find. Sorry to use the word jizz in a mental health podcast, but I was like, you're not having a good time out there, son, are you? Because that's not, you're acting like this is really fun for you. And maybe it is in some ways, but I don't know, man. I think one of us is having a much happier, better life than the other. So I think I don't know. I try to make myself be empathetic sometimes. I think it's hard to dig for, depending on the day, but yeah. So yeah, that's my new thing now, is I try and be like, that's probably not coming from a very happy place, and then just get off the internet and pretend I don't know about it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you and thankful to you for talking about that with us. And I know, as you mentioned, you're not wanting or to talk about that as much nowadays. You want to be able to talk about the music and the stuff that means the most in a way. And a lot of times, like you're saying, when it's hard to know whether you give these, whatever you want to call them on the internet, these types of people, trolls, anything like that, people harassing on the internet, to give them that airtime or not is really difficult to know what to do. As you say, sometimes you shine a light on it, it makes it worse for you, but then you're supposed to stay silent about that, or it's a really hard thing to balance. But the way you've spoken about everything throughout your careers is really, really paved the way for other musicians, in particular young women, to be able to speak out about these things as well. Because otherwise, like you say, you think you're just dealing with those things on your own and you're not able to talk about it. So as much as I get out of totally, you're saying you feel like that put a target on your back, but also at the same time it will have helped so many people, musicians.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you to say. And also, I was very lucky that when those things started to happen to me, there were a few people in the industry who reached out to me about it. Like, Shirley Manson was one, and she's always been incredibly supportive and incredibly kind. And Tegan and Sarah and Hayley Williams from Paramore, they've always been like, I don't know, I think there's a real kindness in that, but then it also makes me sad because I'm like, oh, that person did that because they already know what this is like. And I don't know, I think it's hard to think about musical scenes when, like, you know, as soon as you're lucky enough to start traveling and touring and doing those things, I do think you lose a bit of your community just because you're not there as much anymore. And like in the first 2 years of CHVRCHES, we played 360 shows, which is maybe too many shows.
Wow.
But like, so I guess I'm like, you know, we weren't in the scene anymore, not because we didn't want to be, but we literally were not there. So I think talking to people about it back home, it did feel like there was a disconnect. And I'm sure that you guys find that your friends can be incredibly empathetic and really caring about it, but it's hard to understand some of the more specific aspects of it if you don't live in that day in, day out. So having, you know, especially Sarah from Tegan and Sarah, she messaged me like immediately. And I was like, oh, Tegan and Sarah know who we are. And I was just blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, I wish it was something nicer than this. But yeah, just having a different kind of scene or different kind of community and different kind of support.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think, like, I guess the podcast is about helping young people, and in particular might be struggling with mental health and navigating the online social media as such a massive part of that. Whether you're, as I was saying before, you just a user of social media and you're posting just your personal life or whatever, or whether you're actually posting in terms of professionally for your music or for your career to sort of enhance that in any way. I think sometimes the mental health impacts and the trauma that comes from that as well is really overlooked, and unless, like you say, Lauren, people have experienced that themselves, or they know, like, for people around you, it do experience that with you as well. Just as the people around you and your support network can experience the highs and the good times, they also do I guess, experience the lows and the difficulties that come with that too. But in terms of like, yeah, I guess the mental health impacts of that, or like we've already touched on, I guess as well, Kirsteen, like the picking yourself back up and putting yourself back out there can feel impossible sometimes. I don't know about you, but sometimes I would just like to never put my face online ever again. But then you can't really do that in this day and age, really.
Yeah, I literally make that joke all the time where I'm like, I just don't want to be perceived today. I'd just quite like to not be perceived. And then I'm like, but I must be perceived. But I do think sometimes I'm like, it's definitely like what you were saying. I'm like, there's definitely eras of my life where I really didn't want to do promo. I didn't want to be online. And it gave me such anxiety and such fear that like there's times where I'm like, I've definitely like sort of blacked out during interviews. I've got no idea what I said. I just know that I turned up for the promo day, and then at the end of the promo day I went to bed and I was like, I don't remember doing any of that, which I guess is like, now I've learned in therapy, guys, disassociation. But like I think it is interesting that like if you don't do those things, and I think in the last couple of years I think there's been much more helpful and healthy conversation about saying no to certain commitments by, high profile successful artists. But I think, people like Lewis Capaldi or Sam Fender or Lola Young taking time away from something which is doing really well and is on this juggernaut, I think that's incredibly important. And I definitely didn't know that was an option. Honestly, I think our management's probably very glad I didn't know that was an option, because I would have been stopping every 2 days. Like around 2013, I would be like, no, I don't want to do any of it. Leave me alone. So yeah, but also I get that there is like a privilege in that to a point, because when you're like an independent artist trying to get momentum going, saying, "Oh, just stop," doesn't feel as like logical or practical, really. Like it's easier to say that when people already know who you are, they already want to buy the records, they already want to buy the tickets. If you have to cancel a couple shows or you take a bit of time off, it's a very different proposition than when you're like, okay, I've quit my job to do this, or I have my part-time job, I need to figure this out. Like that's a very different proposition, just like financially and in terms of visibility and stuff. So
exactly, no, totally. And I think it's like a thing that I guess talk about with other artists as well at the same time, and is that the idea of obviously being an emerging or up and coming artist or being a fully established artist, and it's a completely different sometimes set of rules. And like what you say, sometimes you don't know whether you're allowed to stop or take a moment. Obviously, Kirsteen, with your sort of super rapid online visibility, and I know you mentioned obviously earlier in this conversation about the pressure to keep that going, but say there's somebody that's listening right now that's feeling that pressure. Maybe they've had a moment online themselves, or maybe they're just trying to be more visible online, or maybe they're just trying to get into the music industry, but they're struggling with taking time for themselves. They're struggling with the mental health sort of mental health implications that sort of come with that. What would your advice be to them to keep going, or to give it a go?
I think I don't know, I find it, because I still consider myself like I'm still totally navigating the waters as like such a small independent artist, and I just do everything myself. So I sometimes forget that there is no pressure, other internal pressure. There's no one telling me what to do or when to post. It's all just fully off my own choice. So I think sometimes I forget that like we started it because I love doing it, and I really enjoy it, and making these connections and growing the online stuff. I do enjoy it. I really love doing the content and doing the posts and seeing the kind of reactions online and building that community. But I always forget when it does get a wee bit too much, or there's a bit of heat there, or maybe there's been some like trolling and things, that it is just me, so I can take a step back. So I wish maybe like I have a really good support network around me, but I think I would tell myself like to just almost chill out. Like it's fine. And I suppose I would always be really scared of, I still am sometimes quite scared of, like, I suppose the phrasing is like falling off the bandwagon, especially when you're just starting out and still quite a small artist and trying to build this audience and name for yourself. So I'm still very much in that realm, as far as I can see. So I do get that way of going, right, I need to keep it up because I still don't know where I want to go with it or where it will go, because I just kind of roll with what's happening. But it's not as serious as I think I make it out in my head. And I think just if you're starting out, it's tricky, because it's like, that's what you want to do. It's being consistent was such an important part of me making that kind of growth. And I think there was a period of posting a TikTok every single day at 9 a.m. for like 7 months straight. Like, there was no gap. It was consistent. Like, it was commitment, and it was commitment. But I knew it was like, I knew what was happening with it, and I was really enjoying it, because it was really interesting to see, and I just really loved being able to grow the people that were there. And but then coming out of that the other end, it was probably not the healthiest space to be in, and I definitely got a bit addicted to it. So yeah, being able to find a balance of being consistent because and posting it because you want to, and not feeling like you need to. Because I had a phase where I was like, I need to post, or like I didn't do anything for that day. I've not posted in 3 days. Like, I need to go do that. And that was quite rough. And it had an impact like externally to music as well, with like family and friends, like if a holiday or something, like, or if I was like, I don't know, with friends or a partner being like, oh my goodness, I've not done that yet. And it was just really disconnecting myself from life because I missed something. So, yeah, I suppose the best advice is just try and be really careful with your balance of being consistent, but also just knowing what you're doing it for, and not becoming over consumed by the reaction and the numbers being the important part, because it's very much not the case once you come out the other side of it.
No, totally. And are you a fan of batch filming content?
I do, yeah, I do that. I do that quite a lot. A lot of my, like, I love a nice backdrop. I love a scenic backdrop. So every time I'm at a nice backdrop, we'll batch record a few things, and then I'm not an everyday poster. I could not do that anymore. But every few days or something, it means like if I do get a sense of, oh, I've not posted in a while, then there's something in the tank. There's like a backlog of stuff. So yeah, I do like a batch record.
And that just speaking of nice backdrops there, it's made me think about, actually, I was going to say to you, obviously, if you're fine with mentioning it, but as well as posting online as yourself as a musician, you're also now post online on behalf of other companies or organisations, or doing Visit Scotland and that type of stuff, like you're out adventuring. Do you approach that differently because of what you've experienced by posting online as a musician, or is it more fun, or is it, do you know what I mean, is it less pressure in a way?
It's definitely less pressure, and I think I just have a bit of fun with it, because it's not necessarily for my musical growth and where I feel like there's an expectation there. It's just a bit of fun, and it's more of like a personality thing, I think, just going out and gallivanting around Scotland with nice scenery. And I do take a lot of joy in doing that. I suppose it's just mostly for me, it's just the being outdoors and film and stuff. And obviously Scotland speaks for itself most of the time. So there's not much pressure there in terms of this needs to be perfect. And it's not me. It's like, I'll say a lot of the ones that will be me singing, or for the other stuff, it's me like speaking or talking about something. But because it's not my song that I've written, I just don't feel as stressed about the reaction, because it's not something that's something I've made in terms, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's but both, but I love doing both. But it's definitely, when I post one of those videos, I don't feel half as like feared when I'm posting one of my own.
And I do think it's nice to try and find. Now I'm really worried. I'm like, hopefully people aren't being rude to Visit Scotland on the internet. What's not nice about cows and castles and hills and stuff? What? That would be terrible. Like, God. But yeah, I do think it's like nice to try and find. I'm like, sometimes I go through phases where I'm like, I hate all of it. I don't want anything to do with any of it. But then sometimes I'm like, the internet can be very fun. Why can we not just have it be fun? So maybe it's nice to find a balance between like having something that is so like personal and feels so vulnerable, but then you're also like, I know how this works. I'm really good at it, and I can do this, and I can do it in this way, and make fun things that aren't necessarily bringing everything back on you. Like I have a secret Substack that I've been enjoying, and I'm like, oh, it's quite nice. I was thinking about not even which is my favorite socials platform. I'm like, oh, which one do I hate the least? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I don't know. I've been really enjoying using Substack as a reader because, like, as a user, because I just follow people I think are interesting, and then that's about all that happens. And then I'm like, oh, I can write my little blog posts. I don't even need to publish them. They just live in the little canon. And then also that's quite nice. And also I don't need to be seen on it, which I think is quite nice. Like you can put pictures in if you want, but you don't have to. And I'll say, oh, wait a minute, that's quite nice. No batch video. But the batch video is such a good idea. I remember figuring out that was a thing that you could do. And I was like, oh, you can just suffer for a day and then you've got stuff for ages.
Yeah. Although sometimes I'm like, now my feed looks the same because I'm standing at the same rock for 3 months.
And I guess it's hard to find the balance between, stockpiling stuff so that your brain doesn't have to do that every day and you can have a normal life and feel more like a person than a sim. But also I do think when I stockpile stuff, it feels less personal somehow in a way. I don't know. I think it's hard to find the balance between injecting your personality to it, and every social media person is like, oh, bring your personality online, but a lot of the time you don't feel like doing that, especially if like, that sounds bad, like I used to be a lot more carefree with personality based things on the internet. I think when you've been through those ups and downs, sometimes it's difficult to want to put yourself, as you were saying before, like put yourself out there in that way. But when I look at what actually works in the algorithm is the stuff that is more genuinely what I would post and more authentic, I suppose. But then it's the battle of, I have to be authentic on the internet when I don't know how to be there.
I think as well, like you say, it's important to, as much as when we're talking about being in the public eye and there's a lot of negative things that come along with that, and whether that be you've got hundreds of thousands of followers or 100 followers, there can still be negativities that come along with that. But also, there, like you say, there is a lot of goodness that comes from that, and you can really create community, and you can maybe find your niche a little bit, and you can find a pocket of the social media world where you meet other people that are like-minded, or you make, I mean, for a lot of, even though Scotland is we're a small country and a small music industry, but still a lot of artists are still just connecting via being online, and first and foremost, really, and then obviously down the line meeting in person or at gigs and stuff like that. But it's still it can still be very much used in that way. And I guess like what you're saying, Lauren, about recreating that community side of it again, there's little glimpses of it, which I hope is a positive sort of, I guess, step.
And I do think it kind of, the thing I always come to with it is like, social media is how CHVRCHES found their people, you know? Like we found our specific niche of weirdos who saw us weirdos and was like, yes, give me more of that. And I do think, I don't know, like on paper, our band would never have been signed to a major label. Like it wouldn't, like now we would never, well, I know for a fact we'll never get signed to a major label now, but the fact that like on paper we just wouldn't have been that appealing a prospect in terms of what was working in the industry, in inverted commas, but because we came in and we had all these streams and we had people coming to the shows, and that was just because of quite an organic thing on the internet. And I do think, I don't know, I think when you look at like what's doing really well right now, I think it is stuff that's a lot more niche than what was being pushed like 5-10 years ago, like the kind of generic, these lyrics don't mean anything pop songs that were very popular on the radio a certain amount of time ago. It's just not doing as well, it's just not working as well. And I think that for me as a listener, I feel like I'm finding so much new interesting music that I definitely would not be finding out about if I was still trying to find out about it from music magazines and the radio. Like so much of it is people being like, did you see this thing on YouTube or this, like, and I just think that's really positive. So as much as we've slagged off the internet a lot, I was like, oh damn it, I do like it.
What do you feel like, there's a couple of bits here, they're kind of similar, but what actually sort of needs to change in in terms of, we kind of have touched on it, about the platforms, social media platforms, or the industry, or society in general, or if somebody's, I guess, maybe listening right now who's just starting out, just wanting to post their first song, share their first song, post their first social media post, what would your wee bit of advice be for them? I'll go with you first, Lauren.
I would say just try to listen to your gut and be as authentic and true to yourself and what you're trying to make as possible, because everything changes so quickly anyway. What worked a year ago is not going to be the thing that works now or in 2 years. And I don't know, I do kind of think that the music industry is still really gatekeepy in so many ways, but I do think that some of that feels like it's changing. Even if you look at what's happening with like the labels and things like that, I'm like, I think we're in the last days of Rome a little bit in terms of how that stuff is rolling out. So I do kind of think that trying to play by that system, if that works for you, 100% amazing, great. But I also don't feel like you shouldn't feel like you need to push yourself to fit into that blueprint anymore, because the blueprint, I think it's going to be done in a certain amount of time anyway. So yeah, just find your niche, and at the end of the day, you should make stuff that you love, because if you don't love it, nobody else is going to love, like, they're going to feel the love in it if you've put that into it.
I suppose in regard to like doing your first posts and things on the internet, like I have so much to thank for the internet. I still do. Like I my whole thing is based on a lot of TikToks and Instagram, and I've made so many connections, and opportunities can come from it as well. There's a lot of stuff that I just wouldn't have got if it wasn't for like the people that do love it and are kind and everything about it. And there's so many more of them than there are like the haters, which is always hard to see past, even because they feel like their voices are just a bit louder. But I think to just go for it, but keep your mind's wits about it, and don't give in to metrics, I suppose. Like that's one piece of advice I would give, is it's like, yeah, post your post because you want to, and it's true to what you want to post in your music, as opposed to following the viral moments, because they come and go so fast, and they're amazing like at the time, and they can give you a lot of numbers and clout, I suppose, for a short period. But build slowly, like kind of build that audience and community. If we're talking about online, do it in a time that works for you without forcing it, following trends or whatnot.
Well, both, yeah. Really, just really appreciate both of your honesty. So there's a thing, what we do at the end of each episode, which relates very much to the last sort of bit we just spoke about there, but we ask all of our guests about, for one tiny change. So what is the one thing you most want to see change in regards to maybe being in the public eye or social media and as well? It could be, one tiny change for the industry or for the artists themselves.
I mean, it's hard to think of a tiny change, because I was going to say it would be lovely if everybody could just be a bit kinder, but that feels like quite a big change. So it might not fit with the theme.
No, it totally does. It totally does. It's I guess like what we're saying, it starts, I don't know, the trickle effect of instead of waves of negativity, if it was waves of kindness, would be much more beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, and like whether it's music or politics or any of those things, I think that it's important to stand by your convictions and think about other people's experiences and put your money where your mouth is, but also try to approach that with some kind of empathy for people on the other side of the line of that. Sometimes it's very difficult though when people are just saying dumb shit. Dumb shit. You're like, oh no, I have to remember, I have to make a tiny change and be nice to that person, but I don't want to.
And I'm doubling up on that one, the being kinder one, and I suppose remembering that it's a person behind the screen when you're, for those, if anyone, for those that comment. But then I suppose for the artist point of view, maybe a tiny change could be like celebrating your current wins and like everything that you're doing at the moment, because I think currently it's always about what's next and the next thing and reaching bigger goals and reaching bigger numbers and everything, but just focusing on the stuff that you're achieving right now, because it's pretty cool. Should appreciate it more.
tiny music industry change that I would like is day rates for songwriters. Not for band people necessarily, because I'm not complaining about myself, but I have so many friends who are jobbing producers and jobbing songwriters, and they turn up for sessions every day. They pay the electricity and the bills in their studio, and you don't get paid. And like, it's mad to like when you look at records getting all these awards, and I'm like, that person, one of the people who's a major writer on that, gets paid absolutely nothing. So yes, I don't know how anybody fixes that, but there's a lot more learned, wise people in musicians' unions who would know about that. But yeah, I think we should pay the songwriters. That would be pretty nice for them.
Exactly. Like you say, it's the people at the heart of it, isn't it? Like these songs wouldn't exist. The gigs, the live performances wouldn't exist, and that's that's at the absolute heart of it. And I think that as the thing that's been such a through thread throughout our conversation really has been authenticity and being true to yourself, trusting your gut. And I think as well, it's so important. It's so hard when we've touched on it, but when you're in the depths of it and really struggling with mental health, whether that be due to online issues or just general life or just navigating this wild west of the music industry, that it's not forever and it won't feel like that forever, and there's more goodness to come. I just want to thank you both so much for everything, being so honest and sharing everything. And we talked about some really difficult moments and some hard things, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you both for being so honest about this. It's really not easy stuff to talk about, but these conversations really matter, and it will really help. Sharing your music, your life with the world isn't easy. Some days it lifts us up and other days it wears you down, but through it all, we keep going. If you're listening and dealing with online harassment or struggling with being in the public eye, you're not alone. It's not your fault, and you don't have to accept it as part of the job. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep making tiny changes that lead to something big.
If you've been affected by anything that came up in today's episode, you can find a list of resources for reaching out for help in the episode show notes, or you can check out Tiny Changes support page at tinychanges.com/support. Thank you to our great host, B. Charlotte. Music produced by the brilliant Barry Jackson. Podcast artwork by the amazing Berwin Muir. Technical production by the very talented Ross Sloan. This podcast was created and produced by Kayla Megan Burns and Nina Abisoria for a Tiny Changes pilot production.